Bang, bang.
You know what I mean?
Hi, welcome everyone. This is the Freedom Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Marilyn. Let's begin this meeting with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is a big book study. We're going to be studying the big book together. And this is an hour and a half meeting. We take a 10-minute break at the halfway point. And we read the preamble here in unison. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Is there anyone here who has been out improving their resume, heading up the Research and Development Committee, coming back with us, would like to introduce themselves today? Okay, is anyone here at their very first AA meeting? Anyone brand new? Great. Are there any out-of-town visitors? Okay, wonderful. Obviously, I consider it a great privilege that Jim has asked me to lead the big book study today. And when he did, my first question, which is probably yours, is why? Why did Jim ask this person to lead in his absence? He's out of town, and you can't be in two places at one time. And so he needed to ask somebody. So that would be me. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and because I believe that perhaps that could answer the question of why. I'm a member of the Stairways group, where Jim does a big book study on Saturday night at the 101 Club at 7:30. He also does a sponsorship workshop at 1:30. And coming back to the program, I started to go to these meetings, and I have to go every week because they made me the treasurer, so somebody's got to collect the money. So I've been studying the big book immensely with him, and I believe that perhaps he chose me because the whole purpose, I think, of these big book studies is that we learn how to teach the big book just like Jim teaches the big book. And he's a teacher, and I believe he's a teacher teaching teachers to be teachers. And so I by no means will try to act like I know anything like he knows. However, I do know that Jim can't be everywhere at the same time, which he's proving here. So we have to learn this so we can help others, because this is our hope. This is our hope of recovery, and this is our purpose. I had 14 years in the program. I went to a lot of meetings. I had a faith in God. And I just figured that I wasn't going to ever have a slip. 14 years, you start to get a little believing that it's like impossible to have a slip at that point. And then I did. And I was out for 4.5 years. And I really liked drinking. And every day I made a very strong commitment to try to control my drinking For the first couple of years on my slip, I actually was telling people that I wasn't really an alcoholic, but it was really good that I was in that program for 14 years because it really helped me. I was controlling it very well. So experience showed me after a couple of years that I wasn't. So I did admit that I was an alcoholic, but I figured, well, okay, I'm an alcoholic. But I'm sure I can learn how to control my drinking through all that teaching that I had for 14 years in AA, and because I'm much older now and I'm much more mature, I'm sure I can control it. And I went for a couple of years like that, and I still did not have a desire to come back. I did not have a desire to quit. I had a desire to drink constantly. One of the things I attribute my slip to is my father died. He was the light of my life. And I was using the Bible verses to try to heal my father. And I had them all written down. I was speaking healing into existence on my father. He was going to get well. I neglected to realize that our prayer here in AA is, thy will be done. It was, God, you're going to do my will, and this is why. I'm going to use your words against you, and you're going to do my will. I was in the hospital looking through the Bible, looking for more verses that I can use against God to do my will. And I actually found a Bible verse that said, man has 70 years to live, and my father was 74. I said, no, not that one, God. And he died. And I felt that my connection to God was gone. And so now I was staying sober for sure on my own power. And the big book says that there's times when only the power of God can come between us and a drink. And since I disconnected myself from that power, it was inevitable. So anyway, that was the thing in my slip. But it's kind of neat how I came back. I feel like I have a peace with death, because the reason I came back, I had met my husband when I was 2 years sober originally in the program. He had been going to meetings the whole time I was drinking for 4.5 years. And I had been going to Al-Anon, living with a drunken wife. And there was a man in the program. His name was Ray Allen. And he had 45 years of sobriety when he died. He was like 90 years old. I remember Ray really helped me a lot in my sobriety for those 14 years. He was a great help to me. He was love. He was, he always said, look for the good in everything. And he lived that, and he was a power of example. And he would always ask my husband about me all the time. Tell Marilyn I love her. So once in a while I'd come in the 101 club, and I'd tell everybody how well I was doing. They always say that you never hear of anybody that comes back and says that they were doing really well. I actually did that for a couple of years. I'm not trying to be that jerk that did that, but just because I really thought I was doing good. And also because I wanted to see Ray, and he was very loving, and I would come see him every once in a while because he just loved. And it taught me a power of example. Ray taught me a power of example of how to treat people who are drinking, because he just loved me. He just said, I love you, Marilyn. And I said, well, I'm doing really good drinking. He said, that's great. We're here all the time, and come on in and tell us about it, and we really love you and love to see you back. So I'd go see him. Well, when he died, I wanted to go to his funeral, and I wanted to go without alcohol in my breath. I guess because I knew so many people in the program, and I knew they'd all be coming up to me and attacking me and trying to get me back in. I didn't want alcohol on my breath, so I decided not to drink for one day. The service was going to be on Monday at the 101 Club. Sunday, I decided not to drink, and my husband went to a meeting, and I turned on the TV, and Days of Wine and Roses was on TV. So I said, oh, what a coincidence. I'm not drinking today, and Days of Wine and Roses is on TV. I think I'll watch that movie. That'll be fun. So I watched it, and watching the movie, and in the beginning of the movie, Lee Remick and Jack Lemmon had just met Lee Remick. She had never had a drink before. Or she had a drink, but she didn't like the taste. So he said, what do you like? And she goes, oh, I like chocolate. I eat chocolate all the time. I eat chocolate for breakfast. And so he said, well, then why don't you try a Brandy Alexander? They're tasty. So she did, and she's like, oh, that's good. So then she had about 4 of them. And they walked down to the river, and there was all this garbage floating on the river, and she goes, oh, that alcohol, I love it. It makes the garbage look pretty. And that was the first day. Her life actually continued to get much worse, as did his. And after a series of many insane asylums, losing many jobs, fights, physical, mental abuse, life deteriorated greatly. Jack Lemmon found the program, and she went out, and so he decided to do a 12-step call on her by himself, and at which point he ended up having a slip with her. After that, came back to the program, and he decided that in order to maintain his sobriety, because sobriety was his number one priority, he wouldn't be able to be around her just because it was affecting his sobriety, which he proved through the slip. At the end of the movie, he was sober for a year. He got a new job, and he was real happy. And she came to visit him. He said, oh, look how happy I am. I'm so happy. If you could just have what I have. It's there for you, too. It's here for anybody who works it. And she said, I couldn't do what you do. I could not stay away from a drink. I need the alcohol. I need the alcohol to make the garbage look pretty. And I'm watching this, and I stand up and I go, but you're making the garbage. And the words bounced off the TV and slammed me in the face. And it was a spiritual experience. Because those words were meant for me out of my own mouth. I was making garbage. So I started crying, and then I stopped crying before my husband came home because I didn't want him to see what had happened to me because I did not want to stop drinking. So I went to the meeting the next day, to the funeral, and that was December 30th of 2001. I went to the funeral, and I was crying the whole funeral. And afterwards, one of my friends that I had known for that 20 years came up to me, and she said, Marilyn, why are you crying? And I'm like, Ray died. And she's like, come on. Ray's 90 years old, you know. It's like, come on. You're not. All these tears are not over Ray. And I'm like, well, everybody loves him so much. She's like, come on. You're thinking about quitting drinking, aren't you? And I went, She goes, come on and pick up a white chip. So that night, through no desire of my own, this is why I truly know that there's a power other than myself, for sure. I truly believe it's a power greater than myself because it actually got myself to that meeting to pick up that white chip. But it's definitely a power other than myself because the power of myself wanted to continue to drink and continue to attempt control drinking forever and ever. So it had to be a power other than myself and a power greater than myself to bring me to that meeting. Brought me to the meeting. I picked up a white chip. I was not happy about it. But God told me, Marilyn, you can get sober. And I said, yeah, I know. I can get sober, God. I was sober for 14 years, you know. Okay. He said, no, you're going to be happy. And I said, I'm happy drinking, God. What do you mean I'm going to be happy? And he gave me the vision that I was going to be happy because I was going to help other alcoholics. And little did I know that that's how any of us achieve true happiness, is through helping other alcoholics. And that is the reason we do these steps. I really believe at that time I traded my life and for the ability to become a helper of others. Because of that deep-seated purpose that God gave me the first day, I have been studying the Big Book fervently throughout this past year to learn how they did it so that I can do it too. If I do what they did, I will get what they got. And it happens for everyone. That's the reason that I'm here. I met Jim. I was about 2 weeks sober and still wanted to drink. And I had asked someone else that I had known for the 20 years to become my sponsor originally. And she introduced me to Jim. She said he's got a great big book study and why don't you start going to it. So I went to it. And I couldn't understand. All he talked about was fear. And I couldn't understand. I didn't have any fear, I thought. So the first meeting I went to was way over my head. I could not understand what this big book meant in my life. And so I wanted to drink, and I went up to him one day. I saw him at a meeting. I said, Jim, I want to drink. And he said, well, what's your fear? And I go, what do you mean? What's with that fear thing? He goes, have you read the big book? And I'm like, what do you mean read the big book? And that's really where we have to start. All the answers that we have are in this book. And it's kind of funny because, mind you, I got sober on December 30th. On December 25th, Christmas, my husband gave me a present. And it was all wrapped up. It was exactly this big. And I opened it up, and it was my big book that had hardly anything in it. Now, mind you, I had 14 years of sobriety. It had nothing written down, or very little things written in it. But he gave me my big book, and he had a bookmark in the doctor's opinion. And little did I know that I was actually going to use that present that he gave me, and that it would be the biggest gift that my husband could have given me, on that, not knowing that desire would also be given me as a gift in just a few days. So we will today be talking about the 7th step, because that's where Jim left off. However, I personally, at this point, would like to talk a little bit about this purpose, because the whole reason that we do any of these steps is for that goal. Sure, we're getting our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. The end is to fit ourselves of maximum purpose. So, if you would turn to page 77, 3 lines down for the top. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. I always believed in God. It was the people thing that really was always a barrier to me. If you would please turn to page 20 also. Okay, the very first full sentence. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend on the constant thought of others and how we help meet their needs. Also interesting, in the next paragraph, the last line, what do I have to do? Next line. It is the purpose of this book to answer such questions specifically. We shall tell you what we have done. So if we do what they have done, that is what you have to do to get what they got. Page 89. Practical experience, life. Our experience shows us that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. Okay, turn to page 164. Second full paragraph, third line down. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. Now, this line is very interesting because it's one of the 7 places in the Big Book where it just kind of implies that we meditate. Meditation is listening, asking God and listening. There's a few things that God showed me coming back. One is that He wants to be asked. He wants to be the one. He wants to be God, mainly because He is God. But He wants us to ask Him, and then He will give us. Anything that we ask spiritually, He will give us. But He wants us to ask. One of my downfalls in my slip was the fact that I was telling God what He was going to do, and God just doesn't respond in that fashion. Page 70. Second full paragraph. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. Now, notice that, this is in the 4th step. You might be thinking, hey, this girl's talking about the 12th step. How come she's bringing all these things up? The steps are a continuum. There is no step that is stands alone. They are all based on the fact that we work all the steps, and that without this goal of why we're doing the steps, realizing that it's going to be for helping other people, we might not work it to the effectiveness, or it's good to have a goal. And since that is our goal, we have to keep that goal through all of our steps, although doing all the steps is extremely important before you do 12-step work. Obviously, you can't give away what you haven't got. But knowing that that is the goal has to be in the uppermost of your mind throughout working all the steps in order to do them properly. Okay, page 84. Second full paragraph, about 6 lines down. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. The understanding means understanding of God, God as we understand Him. And effectiveness is effectiveness in helping others. That is the effectiveness that they're talking about there. Okay, now page 19. First paragraph, third line down. We feel that elimination of our drinking is but a beginning. A more important demonstration of our principles, the steps, lies before us. And the last paragraph there, our sentence, a few are fortunate enough to be so situated that they can give nearly all their time to the work. What is the work? It is helping others. In order to do the work effectively, we do have to do the steps. And the goal of that is to help others, and that is our work, and that is our goal, that is our mission. Turn to page 63 and let's read the 3rd step prayer. Second full paragraph. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do that. Okay. Now, in this prayer, there's a purpose and that is that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Right in the prayer is also our purpose. And the reason that we do the steps is to relieve me of the bondage of self and take away my difficulties. Now, what are my difficulties? What is the thing that keeps me from God, from the connection? What is the barriers? What are the walls? And those are our defects, our insanities, and our guilts. And our defects and our insanities being removed through the work of the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th step. The guilts being removed from the work of the 8th and 9th. So this prayer, seeing as how it falls at the 3rd step, is a goal. Once again, this is a goal of where we want to get to, but it is not an end in itself. We don't know what those difficulties are yet. We have to identify them, put them on paper, share them, and then ask God to remove them in order to achieve this goal. Now, if you would turn to the 7-step prayer, which is on page 76, let's read this too. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character which stands in the way of my usefulness of you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go from here to do your bidding. Amen. Once again, our goal is in there. Usefulness to you and my fellows. This is the reason that we're doing this 7-step and why we're doing the 7-step prayer. We have just read the 3rd step prayer and the 7-step prayer. And if you could notice the extreme similarities to the verbiage of those two prayers. Originally, Bill had written the 7th step with the added on your knees in there. Humbly, on our knees, asked him to remove our shortcomings. But the committee that wrote the big book decided that was not acceptable. Now, the difference between the 3rd step prayer and the 7th step prayer are that on reading the 3rd step, we do not know what those character defects are. In reading the 7th step, we have identified them on paper, discussed them with another human being. We're entirely ready. Going back up to the top of page 76, if we can answer to our satisfaction, answer what to our satisfaction? Turn to page 75. We have just done the 5th step with someone we trusted. And at the bottom of page 75, this is the only place in the big book where it actually gives a time factor, where it actually gives you an exact time, which is an hour. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done, looking over the work that we did in the 4th and 5th step. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better, because, going back up to the page before, some promises are in the middle of the step. There are many promises throughout the book, not just in the 9th step. There are some promises here. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. So then we thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, carefully reading the first 5 proposals, the first 5 steps, making sure that we have not omitted anything. We ask. He likes us to ask. If we have omitted anything, and when we ask, he actually tells us. He'll tell you. For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Now that arch is referred to in the 3rd step. Going back to page 63. Most good ideas are, he is the principal, we are his agents. He is the father, we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone that God is God of the new and triumphant. It works if we work it. Arch through which we pass to freedom. And what is that freedom? Freedom from bondage of self. And God, there is the keystone, which is the stone that holds all the other stones together. And then getting back to this, are the stones properly in place? Is God the keystone? Are the other stones properly in place? Have we done the first 5 steps, withholding nothing? All that counts is thoroughness and honesty. Have we been thorough? Have we been honest? Honest in what way? Honest with ourselves. So, then top of page 76 again. If we can answer to our satisfaction that we have been those things, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Oh, the second to the last paragraph. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Asking and willingness. God wants us to ask. He wants us to be willing. Sometimes throughout this past year, I've had to pray for willingness. And then when I wasn't willing, I've had to pray for the willingness to be willing. And then when I wasn't willing to do that, I've had to pray for the willingness to be willing to be willing. And somewhere, if I take it out enough willings, it comes. All right. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. Are we now ready? In other words, this is a gift. We are ready to let God remove. God has the power to remove. I can't. He can. I guess I better let him. Are we ready now to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all? Everyone? Yes, please. Sure.
There's a word in the first sentence on page 76 that
Yes.
jumped out at me for some reason.
Thank you.
I have no reason why.
Okay.
And hopefully you can help.
Maybe.
The reason is our. If we can answer to our satisfaction.
Instead of
I'm
mine.
just wondering why doesn't it say his with a capital H?
We're asking him. He's going to tell us, but his satisfaction, we can't presume to actually know that. We only have us. I believe our satisfaction, self-honesty, is all that we really have. We can't ever presume to know his satisfaction, I would think. But you're right, it does say our, not his. Ask Jim next week. Anyway, yes, please.
I would say based on my own experience, and because of where it is, and that's a really good question, because it's right after the 5th step, and you've just done your 5th step with somebody else, and you're purposely there with another human being, because you can sit there and think that you're getting the answers and all that by yourself. So I would think it has to do with you and your sponsor. That you're both satisfied. In other words, you're through with the questions, and that's what happens when I've done the fifth step with my sponsor, or I've worked with somebody else. We're like clear on, like, we're okay. We see the character defects. We see the the fears, resentments. We see who's really pushing our buttons and how we're going to now deal with them and all that. And then so it's like we're finally satisfied that okay, we can go on now and and move forward. And then it's like so that for me, that's where our satisfaction would come in.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, good. I also wanted to emphasize, obviously, the words all there, all, everyone. Many of the things that I learned this past year is that a lot of the things that are said in meetings are not necessarily true. And before, when I had been in the program before, I did not have this understanding that people say things in meetings. I used to believe that, oh, well, everybody's got their opinion, everything's kind of true for you or whatever. And Jim has taught me a real good way to analyze what people say and to see if it's true. And that is, where is that in the big book? And where is God in that equation? And that's been an extreme help to me, knowing that this book is the instructions stated through experience of how we recover, precisely how we recover. So if it's not in the big book, then you got to take things with a grain of salt when you hear people speak. In this step, it says all the things, because there's a lot of, like Jim likes to call it, New Age, Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a lot of opinions that God does not remove all your character defects, but that you have them and you have to work on them. How can you work on something that you have no power over? You are powerless over your defects as you are alcohol. So how can you work on your character defects? God would have to remove them all, every one. Because going back to the second step, you have to believe that God is either He is everything or He is nothing, and that He has the power to restore you to sanity. Sanity, getting rid of defects. Now, I think that this New Age concept is born by the fact that things crop up. Let's quickly turn to page 84. Second paragraph. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Those are character defects. I thought they were all removed. Well, they were, because when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. These are new ones, because you're living in the world, people, and the world will continue to threaten you, will threaten your basic instincts, and so these are new ones. These are not ones that God did not remove. Okay? Because He will take them all, every one, if we go back to page 76. If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing. Pray for the willingness. Okay, then when ready, that you feel that you are willing, that there is not one that you want to cling to, then you actually read this prayer. And it says we say something like this: My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows, our purpose. Grant me strength, give me strength. It's a gift. as I go from here to do your bidding, helping others. In the shortest sentence in the big book, amen, right there. We have then just completed step 7. Another help that I've gotten from Jim, another focal point, another mantra almost, that I've had to say over and over for myself this past year, is on page 64. Last partial paragraph. When the spiritual malady is overcome, about 5 lines down, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Physically also encompasses financial recovery. So all of our steps are to help us to grow spiritually, because mental and physical recovery are not an end in themselves, as we talked about with what our purpose is in life. Anything that you ask of God to help you grow spiritually, He will give you. Once again, He wants you to ask, and that willingness comes into play. But when I was drinking, I had one job the whole time, 4 years, did the job. Then last year when I got sober, it was 5 jobs, couldn't keep a job. And I just kept having to make decisions based on spiritual malady. I had to keep making decisions to grow spiritually, and I figured the rest would fall into place because it tells me so, because it did for them. It would for me too. And at this point, it's working out fine.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I answered my own question.
Oh, wonderful.
And the answer's on page 75.
Ah,
Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted any. So the word "our" is ourself and God.
beautiful. Okay. All right. I'd like to go ahead and open this up now for more questions, more comments.
Tom, I'm poet.
Hi, Tom.
When God removed my desire to stop drinking, I had to stop drinking first. Now, would not God remove my character defects when I stopped practicing them? That's what my first sponsor, he always tried to tell me this: God will remove your character defects when you stop doing them. Just like He did my drinking. It didn't dawn on me until I was a couple years sober what that really meant. If I stop practicing my character defects, whatever it may be, God will eventually remove my desire to to do that defect. Just saw that.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds neat, and that's a good reason to do the 10th and 11th step throughout our lives. Even though God's removed them, continue to watch for them, sure.
They crop back up.
They crop
Because
up.
people in the world are always threatening us. And we have to practice not practicing defect, I guess.
Exactly. Very good. Yes, hi.
I couldn't stop drinking until I came to AA. He says, like what Jim will say, just stop drinking. Well, I just couldn't just stop drinking.
Right.
And then I found out that, I always was confused by what you cleared up for me, though, about that He will remove all these defects of character. And I was thinking about greediness and stuff, and it pops up constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But at the point that I'm doing the 5th step and asking Him to the 6th and the 7th, that's clean.
Right.
It's just the 10th and 11th and 12th steps keep you on that even keel about as all these new resentments pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And that cleared it up a little bit for me, too, because I get that, I fell into that thing, well, I'm going to work on these things. You're never free of them, like you mentioned, what was going around the rooms. That We're not free of these character defects. We're going to work on them for our whole life, And there was always a little bit of a haziness there that He did take them away from us completely. and that we just have, these are new ones that are popping up, basically, what you're saying, right? In other words,
Absolutely.
because that was like, for me in AA, it was always you're working on these character defects, but if we admit them as, we're labeling specific ones, really, also, that we trim to relieve us. We'll never be free of selfishness, right? I mean, that's what we're dealing with constantly. Dishonesty. We have to remove them, but we also have to keep an eye on them because they keep popping up, right? So he's basically taking them away, and then as they pop up again, we just, I always never felt clean with that stuff in a way, because they were always, I would never get rid of these things. You'll always be working on them.
New ones will pop up, and you will always be working on your 10th and 11th step for the rest of your life, and asking God, where has resentments popped up today? Where has selfishness popped up today? It's a good example of living in the now, is to do the 10th and 11th step every day. But
I always felt that I never completely cleaned my feet off at the doormat, and when I walked into the house, I was still, like, the defects would be still getting on the carpet. It was like, I mean, the concept that you made clear, though, was
right.
Very,
Yeah.
You mentioned that he will take them off, so
Oh.
leave the fourth and fifth step. I am clean. Anything that's coming up now, if I've done a thorough one, is all new stuff.
Absolutely. And the terms all, everyone, the fact that that is emphasized, not only the word all, but then it's explained, everyone is removed. I wanted to show you on page 66 where it proves that we cannot work on our character defects. We cannot work on our resentments. The last full paragraph talking about our resentments. We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. Just like you said, you could not drink. You cannot not be resentful without a spiritual solution to it. Page 66. Okay, yes.
I really appreciate you bringing the topics that I've really gotten out of this today. The willingness. There's things in my life sometimes that I'm not willing either to give up. I don't know why, and some of the character defects, that was really a great point today too. I've realized also that if I don't, on a daily basis, look and be aware of those four, the dishonesty, resentment, selfishness, self-centeredness, almost subliminally, they do crop up and they just manifest it. You can just get into this cycle where if you don't keep aware of it, it gets, I wouldn't say devastating, but you can get, I don't know about trouble, but it really does spiritually deplete you, And I think the thing is where they say that if you can keep your spiritual contact and keep that energy going with God and accept the fact that you are human, you make these type of mistakes, we're all perfectionists also, I think, and it's sometimes hard for me to forgive myself when I see that those things cropped up and I maybe repeat something, So it was really interesting. It's the willingness also to forgive yourself, and to go on and to learn from these things. But I'm really glad you brought these up today. It's very, very important. It's almost crucial that we have to do these things. We have to be able to take a daily inventory and be aware when we're in the world. Because it's so easy to forget. It's so easy.
Yeah, if we allow blockages to come back between us and God, since God is the only power that we have against the drink, then it's absolutely critical. Jim said that he always asks people who have long-term sobriety, where were you on your 10th and 11th step? Where were you in taking inventory, looking at those character defects as they crop up and asking God to remove them? Where were you on that? And invariably, he says, everyone says, what 11th step? They weren't looking at the things that cropped up, so they cropped up and...
Boy, you're so right.
Yeah.
I see it. I do.
I never did an 11-step inventory for when I had time either, and now I do because I know that one thing that a slip will give you is a respect for alcohol and how much it wants to just keep you drinking. And so I have fervently had to work these steps to keep me from picking up that first one, because the first one, you would think that 14 years of sobriety, that you would hear things like we're talking about today, that some of these voices would come to you in the conscience and try to guide you into sanity. But when I picked up that first drink, the only voice I heard was Jose Cuervo's saying, "Marilyn, where you been? I missed you so much."
If I was attending as a patient, as my diseases,
Yeah.
I heard people 20, 30 years ago out, and it's the most patient disease known to man.
Yeah, and loud. That Jose, he's loud. Yes.
This was an amazing meeting for me, and let me tell you why. I've been coming to Jim's meetings now for over a year, twice a week for the most part, and I often wondered what would happen when Jim was gone. Would it carry over, and would his legacy continue? Would the legacy of AA continue, or would it just go back into the new age AA? That is really all I see outside of Jim's meetings. And it was just so refreshing and such a wonderful thing to see everyone, and I think if there were more people here, it would have even been stronger. More people that have been coming to this meeting. But I think it was amazing that, it didn't turn back into Problems Anonymous. It stayed on the path of, what we were like, or what we did to recover. And there was one meeting group I used to go to that Jim was doing, and he was there one week. I was going there week after week, and then the next week he was gone. He wasn't holding the meeting there anymore. And just from one week to the next, it just went right back to all the pissing and moaning and complaining, and I had to walk out of the meeting. I was like, I feel worse than I did when I got here. And it was pretty early in sobriety. It was about a year ago now. And just again, great job, Marilyn. I really think this was a terrific meeting, and I got a lot out of it. And it's glad to see that there's hope for everyone, and for the true AA to continue the way that it was meant to be, the way that it says in the book.
Amen. It works if we work it. We got to work it. Jim can't be everywhere, for sure. Yes, hi.
I really have to echo what the gentleman just said about the quality of the I mean, to sit here and open myself up to listen. And your qualification at the beginning of the meeting made it that much more pertinent because I kept saying 14 years. 14 years. And I was thinking for a few minutes, what brought me back every time? And maybe it was easier for me because I hadn't built up so much time every time I went out when I first realized and admitted in my heart and soul that I was an alcoholic over 10 years ago. And through the grace of God, this June, if I live, I'll have 5 years sober, but in recovery and realizing that I cannot do this alone. And the thing that stuck out to me, to so many different pages, but they all come back to the same words. That willingness in that. It's amazing how they all go together. And what stuck out to me now is because of what's going on in my life outside of this room, it says, is plain a life which includes deep resentment leads to futility and unhappiness. To the extent we permitted to, we can squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. Sometimes at the end of the day, I say, how many hours did I waste today on things I had absolutely no control over? And then I try to give it to God again, say, may I do better tomorrow. The effort is better made in here than it is trying to be able to compete out there. Because if I really admit what I really am, I cannot. And that's where the true alcoholic would admit utter defeat to surrender to win. I don't have to compete out there. Normal people don't show me that much anyway, but I couldn't possibly compete because my answer would be to drink to compete with them. Thank you.
Amen. Who else? Yes, hi.
I was going through a Problem Anonymous situation, which I have done for many years in this program. And I was reading acceptance, and I was saying, okay, it says, until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not be happy, right? Isn't that the way that sentence goes? So I was filling in the blank. Until I could accept this, I could not, what's the next, fill it in. So I'd say until I could accept that my daughter's angry at me, I could not be an effective parent, or until I could accept this, I could not, whatever. So, or I could not deal with it. And I could go on. And then somebody was keeping it real simple for me. I would say this, and they'd say, be happy. And I'd say this, and they'd say, be happy. So it was like, until I could not accept life, period, I couldn't be happy. And as everybody was sharing, it hit me that, it's kind of like the whole bottom line of the 10th and 11th step is until I could accept that God, I guess really it's like in control and I'm not, and it's just like I can't be happy. This is not exactly what I wanted to say. The words have like left my mind for some reason. Like Elvis has left the auditorium, well, the words have left my mind. And but it's kind of like, until I could accept that, that God was with the character defects and all that. We know we're talking about all that. And the part, I was writing that down about, quit practicing the character defect and you'll quit having it, But until I could accept that I had to have God's help in it, that He was the one that was going to remove it, I wasn't going to remove it, I'm not going to get rid of it, and I'm not going to be happy. So it's like until I accept the fact that I have to invite God into my life on a daily basis and to help me in life, forget it. I'm not going to have a life. I'm going to stay in chaos. I'm going to stay in character defects. I'm going to stay in insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And somebody shared, the definition, and then I was like, well, what's the definition of sanity? Then I heard it at a meeting, the guy said, well, the definition of sanity is doing what works. If it works, then you do it over and over again. And you know what? When I sit down and I do, because I have 14 years of sobriety, and I just grasped the whole program about 2 years ago, because I thought it was, for me, trust God, clean house, and help another alcoholic was, all right, trust God to, just throw caution to the wind, let the emotions go over the conscious decision making, and clean house. All right, I did my inventory work and help another alcoholic, and I was spread thin. I mean, I had a daughter to support, and there's no child support coming in either, and what help my family gave me was sick and tired of helping me. So, I was like looking at homelessness if I didn't get my act together. So I had to make some choices and decisions to keep a regular income coming in. And I didn't have the time to run out and help every other alcoholic that came my way or, that walked in this room or whatever. So, it was like learning balance. And again, where the hell's the program, What it was like the new age program, whatever. I was just like worn out. And, but I was grateful because of my efforts, I met Jim through one of the people that I was helping. But I look back and I think, maybe I really was just constitutionally incapable of being honest for those number of years. Because I know there were people in the program that worked the program, but I wasn't hearing it for some reason, or I wasn't choosing to practice it, or I wasn't choosing to delve at that time further into what are you doing? I think because I was so afraid, of what I might find, or discover about myself, or, and the bottom line is we're all riddled with fear, and anybody that's, that's, to me, my opinion or, my experience is that anybody that's out hammering somebody else or, they're just running on fear. They've got their own fear. And today it's such a new freedom to work that fourth step in my daily 10th and 11th, by praying for those people. And I'm not all tied up and bound up with all those resentments. I can let it go. And, and I had a lot of practice of that because I had taken a job where I had 60 people coming at me at a day. Some of them, not all of them every day, but a couple of them every day with different problems, with some kind of resentment, or you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right. And it gave me the opportunity to practice that, And I did a lot of praying for a lot of people. So, it was a good experience, and I was glad I had the program, and it was nice to see it working, and that's practicing the principles. And you do get better, it gets easier. It's like easier to pick up that little prayer and say, and let it go. So anyways, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. I wanted to just say one more thing. Page 71, first full sentence. And remember, this is before the fifth step. It all shows you what's going to happen in the future. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. God can. I think I'll let Him. Amen. God could and would if He were sought. It all ties together. There's so many references. My big book had nothing in it before. It is all cross-referenced. This applies to this. This applies to this. Everything's all falling apart. Because I had to work hard this year, and I'm thank God for Jim to teach me how to work it. How to work it. Because it works if you work it, but you got to know how to work it, so you have to have teachers. We are all teachers. We should become teachers. Who would like to do the chips tonight? Today. Maybe then I'll get a response. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
All right. I have a white chip here for an hour to 30 days. Anybody like to take a white chip? I got a red chip here for 90 days. Anybody like a red chip? Got a blue chip for 6 months. Blue skies, your eyes are nice and clear. Anybody like a blue chip? Okay, if you haven't had a drink today, give your higher power.
All right, great. I guess, is there any other business before we close the meeting? Jim will be back next week. I purposely just wanted to get through step 7, although it's kind of hard to make an hour and a half meeting out of step 7, so that. Oh, thank you. So that he can get into some really heavy-duty work next week with you on steps 8 and 9.
That didn't go away again.
Oh, thank you. Don't say that. All right, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and close the meeting then. A moment of silence for the alcoholic who still suffers inside and outside of these rooms. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
Good job. Boy, am I glad that's over. Oh, thank you.
You did a great job.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, I appreciate that. Oh, am I glad that's... Okay, let's get started again, everybody. Okay, first of all, this particular meeting, because it is an hour and a half in length, is charged a greater rent. So we are $5.50 short of rent. So if anybody would like to pitch in to help that situation, we do need to become 100% on that. So So pay up. We are self-supporting through our own contributions and. Got it?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, let's get back to that 7-step prayer, because the 7-step. Oh, we are on page 76.